Hi, this is Kevin Deal. Today we're going to talk about the PrimaLuna EVO 300 preamplifier. I'm super excited to do this because I hope it's going to slow down sales. What does that mean? The EVO 400 preamp, after it got a stereophile Class A rated, after being picked as a reference preamp by reviewers at both Stereophile and the Absolute Sound, basically being stated as one of the best preamps you can buy regardless of price, it's become so popular, it's been difficult to keep them in stock for customers. And the thing about the EVO 400 is what makes it different from PrimaLuna preamps in the past is that it has balanced connectivity, transformer coupled balanced connectivity. And that is really, really cool for the people that want that, that need that. But if you don't need balanced connectivity, if you're using everything single-ended RCA, then you don't have to spend that extra $800. The EVO 300 is the same preamp, but without balanced. That's what you need to know, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So what am I talking about with this preamp, and what is it about preamps? I have to say something. The last video I made, apparently I upset a couple of people because I kind of snitched them off. The high-end audio industry makes extra money on preamps. There, I've said it. And it's because you can make a reasonable tube preamp and retail it for $1,500 and make it a bucket of money. But what manufacturers do is they will take that $1,500 preamp and put it in a bigger box that's empty. And then they'll sell it for $5,000, $8,000. And that's why you look and you go, oh my God, how much is that preamp? And people go, this is what people do. They go, oh, it's so expensive. It's got to be really, really good. And it's just not true. It's how they make the money. When you go to a restaurant, you order a meal. It could be $7 and you get a sandwich and you get some fries. But it's then that's $3.50 for the iced tea or the Coke. Well, what goes into making a Coke? It's just a cup and it's ice and it's flavored water, that's it. That's how restaurants make their extra margin. And that's the way it is in high-end audio. So you have to be really cautious about that, especially when you see preamplifiers that have stories to them about patented power supplies, when that power supply design has nothing to do with the preamp. You know, the special power supply design would be more applicable to a power amplifier, not a preamp, because preamps always run in Class A. They don't really have changing current needs. And then they talk about, they don't want to talk about the parts. They don't want to talk about how much it weighs. I mean, it's really, and I was talking to my wife about this. We were going for a walk, and I said, you know, in my business, sometimes there's smoke and mirrors. And I thought about that, so I went to my phone and I looked it up when we were walking this morning. And I saw it. I said, something intended to disguise or draw attention away from an often embarrassing or unpleasant issue. That's the definition of smoke and mirrors. And I've got a really good example of that. There was a manufacturer that made a tube preamp that was in a great big empty box, and it had a glass panel on the front that had a tube behind the piece of glass. But to make it look like there was so much more going on, they literally used mirrors behind the glass. So it looked like there's a bunch of tubes and a bunch of parts, but there was nothing in the box. Not that way with PrimaLuna. Let's break this thing down. You know, if you look at the best tube preamps in the world, I'm talking about the very best ones, the ones that cost well over $10,000. There's a few things that they're going to have in common. Number one, they're going to be tube rectified or have tube regulation, and there's a reason for that. It's how a tube preamp can add that extra level of humanity to music. And on top of that, tube rectification is even quieter than solid state rectification. So why don't people use it? Because of cost. Tube rectification means you have to have another winding coming off the transformer somehow to get you that 5 volts. You have to have a tube socket. You have to have the tube itself, and those are $25, $30. Then you have to have resistors. So all of that together, I mean, that can add $30, $40 to the cost of building a preamp. Now, if a company is selling you a preamp for $8,500, you would think that they would spend that, but they don't. Because solid state rectification can be added for $1. And most people don't know any better, and if you go to a store, you're certainly not going to really hear a difference. But PrimaLuna is not only tube rectified. Since day one, every PrimaLuna preamp has been dual mono tube rectified, meaning that it is literally 2 preamps in one box. So you have to double the cost for everything that goes inside. The other thing that you're going to see in the best tube preamps, hopefully, is dual mono construction, but it's just not that common because that means you got to have another power transformer. And power transformers are the single largest cost to building any product. That's why in tube amps, manufacturers like to cheap out. You look, you're going to see a $10,000 tube power amp that weighs 35 pounds, 36 pounds. PrimaLunas don't. PrimaLunas weigh a lot more than that. And that's why in a tube preamp, that $8,500 preamp weighs 15.6 pounds. There's not much in there. This PrimaLuna is 53 pounds. And the reason is it's got 2 massive power transformers in it. And they're toroidal power transformers. And toroids are the gold standard to use in a preamp. And I'm going to tell you why. Because they don't radiate EMI outside of the core of the donut, as they call it. So you have a big, massive toroidal power transformer here, and then it's sealed in a non-microphonic resin. And then it's put into a mu metal can, and that protects the part because it's such an expensive part. You want to protect it from the elements, number one. Number two, it makes it mechanically quieter, so there's less mechanical hum coming from the preamp. Now you take all that and you go times 2. 2 big potted toroidal power transformers, but they did something else. Right over here, you're going to see a circuit that's got 2 yellow parts on it. That is called the AC offset killer. There's manufacturers that sell products that have this inside of them for anywhere from $400 to $1,100 just to add it to your system. But PrimaLuna includes it in all of the EVO 300 and 400 series products. All have the built-in AC offset killer. In fact, PrimaLuna was the originator. All the people that started using it afterwards, they were all copycats of PrimaLuna's parent company, 𝗺𝗵𝗶𝗆 in the Netherlands. Now, to make sure that we keep the noise really, really super low, this is the other thing they did. Some preamps, you're going to see they have a selector switch. And I want you to think about your parents' TV set, right? They had tuner cleaner they had to get out, you know, and then sometimes it'd get stuck between 2 channels. I remember at my house, my family used to take matchbooks to try to pry the knob so it would make good contact when when they would get worn out. I mean, we did all kinds of stuff so 𝗀𝗵𝗁 wasn't bleeding over into Sheriff John, for any of you old enough to remember what that is. So what PrimaLuna does instead is they use hermetically sealed relays mounted in the back. Now these relays are made in Japan by Takasawa. That's a division of Fujitsu. And they're hermetically sealed and guaranteed for 50,000 openings and closings. So on that other component, you got a knob up here and wires traipsing back and forth, and you've got selector switches that wear out and that don't turn off those other inputs completely. You know, people that live up in the Bay Area or that live in New York, they will literally pick up radio stations through unused inputs. But in a PrimaLuna, these relays act as a gatekeeper for noise. There's a controller board up in the front. When you select CD in, as an example, or auxiliary 1, that relay closes, boom, it gives you the best contact you can get. And the shortest signal path. In fact, it's so short, it's almost non-existent. All the other relays are left open, so no noise can get in. So that's just one of the ways. I keep telling people, don't try to get more power into your system. Do the little things that drop the noise floor, and this is another way to do it. Now, something we don't talk about that much is there's a little circuit right next to each relay, and that presents a perfect 100,000 ohm impedance to all of your source components. And they like that, especially if you have a tube phonostage or some other tube DACs and stuff. They like to see a nice stiff input impedance that's nice and consistent. And it doesn't cost them that much to do it, probably $1 an input, but you got to remember something. Big companies, and the bigger the company, the more it's true. They fine-tune the build cost down not to the nearest dollar, not to the nearest 50 cents, but to the penny. But PrimaLuna has never ever done that. These capacitors in the back and these ones up in the front, these are new in the EVO 300 and 400 series. They are tin foils made in Switzerland by a manufacturer that does not produce for any other company in audio. That was a big thrill. I did not know how Herman got this done, but he is a master of relationships. Tin foil capacitors sound amazing, but they can be just a little bit more fragile than lower priced capacitors. So this manufacturer, they make capacitors for NASA and for Boeing. I mean, they're just known to make the very, very best in capacitors, and Herman van den Dungen at PrimaLuna got them to build for this company, and that was really impressive to me. The entire signal path is wired with Swiss-made, silver-plated, oxygen-free copper with a Teflon dielectric. The volume control, instead of being a $2.50 chip like that $8,500 preamp, it's an 𝗶𝗶𝗄𝗃 blue velvet potentiometer. It is analog. This is like a $50 part compared to that chip, and it doesn't sound like a chip. The pink resistors that you see here, the ones in critical positions, those are TACMAN resistors. They are literally and truly custom made in Japan to order. TACMAN resistors are what you would take another preamp and want to upgrade them to because they're known for their low noise and linearity. Now on the front end, you see you have all 12 AU7s. There's 6 tubes. 2 of the tubes are gain tubes per channel, then the last one is a cathode follower. We have a video all about tube rolling if you want to fine-tune the tonal balance of this preamp. The stock tubes are just ever so slightly warm, and we kind of like it that way. But if you want to fine-tune the tonal balance, you can do so by just changing the pair in the front center or the ones flanking. And then if you like the effect, do it some more. But the beauty of that is this. 12 AU7s are the most widely used tube in the world, period. So in the world of new old stock tubes, there's more 12 AU7s than any other part. And tubes that are in production today, there's more 12 AU7s than any other part. So if you want to have some fun, it makes it cheap and easy to do so. But some preamps have a tendency to chew up tubes, especially vintage tubes, and that can be a bummer, right? Well, that's because those preamps have too much gain. There are preamps on the market today that have 23, 27, 30 dB of gain, and that is crazy. Let me break that down for you. If you take your CD player and plug it into your power amp without a preamp, it will play so loud, it will blow you out of the room. So when you add a preamp into your system, you're not doing it to add gain. You're usually attenuating the gain by 10 dB. So you don't want to have a preamp with 27 dB of gain because it's crazy. Number one, you're going to have more thermal noise. When you've got 27 dB of gain just boiling off here, you got to do something with it. And that comes across as thermal noise, but more importantly, you end up having more tube problems. This preamp has only 10 dB of gain, and that is textbook. That's why it's so quiet. Now, let's talk about output impedance. I want you to remember the rule, the 10 times rule, right? The input impedance of your power amp should be 10 times the output impedance of the preamp. This preamp has 256 ohms output impedance. That is crazy low. This preamp will work with any power amp on the market, period. It will be compatible with any power amp on the market, period. 256 ohms, it is so low you can drive a 30-foot cable with it. It's not a problem. It's got 5 sets of line inputs. It's got a tape monitor out. It's got 2 sets of preamp output jacks, and it's got a home theater input on it. And what's cool about the way PrimaLuna did it is this. There's a couple of products out there that have home theater, but it's technically a bypass. That means that the preamp just becomes invisible and you don't get any good from it when you're listening to your home theater system or multi-channel music, right? In the PrimaLuna, it works a little differently. It works at what's called unity gain. So when you switch to home theater on this product, now the volume control does not work. It's out of play. You can listen to your system in multi-channel, whether it's multi-channel music or movies, but you still continue to get the tube glory and the beauty of having a PrimaLuna preamp. This preamp has 5 coats of hand rub finish. You're going to see that so many products today, they're going to use either flat black or flat silver. And there's a reason. If you look at them really close, you're going to see grinding marks in the metalwork. You got to really be pragmatic. PrimaLunas sell for one price. When you go to your dealer, I gotta tell you, the dealers don't make as much money selling a PrimaLuna as they do with other brands. That is the great fact. And there's going to be a temptation sometimes of commission salespeople to want to sell you a product that is more profitable. And then if you look at that product that has such a high, crazy price, you have to say to yourself, but what is the real truth about this? Ask them, why is it that it's such an empty box? Why is it that it costs so much money and there's nothing in it? And you know what they're going to say? We don't talk about parts. We talk about making music. Look, they're going to make music. If you use the right parts and the right engineering, the music comes from that. If it's a minimalist product, that means it's got fewer parts in it, so it should have a lower price. It should not cost you more. You have to be real about things. If you buy this PrimaLuna and you pay the price that's listed and you don't get a discount, keep in mind that the $8,000 product, if you get 20% off, it's $6,400. You're still paying twice what it is really worth. Look at what you get for your money. Don't buy into the hype. Don't buy into the stories, because it's always a story. And we've always been very, very real with you when we talk about PrimaLuna. Look at this remote. This remote is machined. I mean, look at the metalwork on it. They put neoprene rings around the edge to protect the finish of, of where you set it so it doesn't damage your furniture. They have rubber feet on the bottom, but you know what? Rubber reacts with wood. So on the new products, they came up with a new shim that they mount to the bottom of the rubber feet to protect your furniture. I have not seen another manufacturer do that. But Dutch people are like that. The people at PrimaLuna look at the minute details that end up making for a much better experience for you, and they build something that is built to last a lifetime, as it's always been with PrimaLuna. So go check it out. You make your own decisions, but I want you to just be real when you buy this stuff. And when you think in those terms, you're going to find that PrimaLuna truly is music illuminated. Thanks.